Good morning, friends. And I'm Nandita Siria, going to start with chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga, the yoga of analytical knowledge. In this chapter, Arjun reiterates to Sri Krishna that he is unable to cope up with his current situation, where he has to kill his elders and teachers. He refuses to take part in such a battle and requests Sri Krishna to be his spiritual teacher and guide him on the proper path of action. Then the Supreme Lord starts imparting divine knowledge to Arjun. He begins with the immortal nature of the soul, which is eternal and imperishable. Death only destroys the physical body, but the soul continues its journey. Just as a person discards his old clothes and adorns new one, the soul keeps changing bodies from one lifetime to another. The Lord then reminds Arjun that his social responsibility as a warrior is to fight for upholding righteousness. He explains that performing one's social duty is a virtuous act that can take him to the celestial abodes, while dereliction only leads to infamy and humiliation. At first, Sri Krishna tries to motivate Arjun at a mundane level. Then he moves deeper and starts explaining to Arjun the science of work. He asks Arjun to perform his deeds without any attachment of their fruits. This science of working without desire of rewards is called the yoga of the intellect and bodhi yoga. He further advises that the intellect should be used to control the desire for rewards from work. By working with such intent, the bondage creating karmas get transformed into bondage breaking karmas, and a state beyond sorrows can be attained. Arjun is curious. Arjun is curious to know more about those who are situated in divine consciousness. Sri Krishna therefore describes how persons who have attained transcendence are free from attachment, fear, and anger. They are undisturbed and equipoised in every situation, with their senses subdued. They keep their minds away, absorbed in God. He also explains the progression of affliction of the mind, such as greed, anger, lust, etc., and advises how these can be overcome. Bhagavad Gita 2.1, where Sanjay said, seeing Arjun overwhelmed with pity, his mind grief-stricken and his eyes full of tears, Sri Krishna spoke the following words. So here there's a commentary going on. To describe Arjun's feeling, Sanjay uses the word kripaya, meaning pity or compassion. This compassion is of two kinds. One is the divine compassion that God and the saints feel towards the souls in material realm on seeing their suffering in separation to God. The other is the material compassion that we feel upon seeing the bodily distress of others. Material compassion is a noble sentiment that is not preferably directed. It is like being obsessed with the health of the car while the driver sitting within a feast for food. Arjun is experiencing this second kind of sentiment. He is overwhelmed with material pity towards his enemies gathered for battle. The fact that Arjun is overcome by grief and despair shows that he is himself in dire need of compassion. Therefore, the idea of his being merciful upon others is meaningless. In this verse, Sri Krishna is addressed as uh, Madhusudan. He had slayed the demon Madhu and hence gotten the name Madhusudan, or slayer of the Madhu demon. Here, he is about to slay the demon of doubt that has arisen in Arjun's mind and is preventing him from discharging his duty. Now we go to Bhagavad Gita 2.2, where the Supreme Lord said, "My dear Arjun, how has this delusion overcome you in this hour of praise? It is not befitting an honorable person. It leads not to the higher abodes, but to disgrace." So now the commentary goes on, and the word Arya in our sacred books does not refer to any race or uh, ethnic group. The Manu Samriti defines an Aryan as a highly evolved and cultured person. Aryan connotes goodness, like the term perfect gentleman. The aim of Vedic scripture is to induce humans to become Aryans in all respects. Sri Krishna finds Arjun's present condition in conflict with that idea, and so reprimands him by calling attention to his confusion in how to live up to his idea state of being under the current situation. The Bhagavad Gita, or Song of God, effectively begins from here because Sri Krishna, who has quiet until now, starts speaking in this verse. The Supreme Lord first begins by including in Aryan a hunger of knowledge. He does this by pointing out that his state of confusion is dishonorable and inappropriate for virtuous persons. He then goes on to remind Arjun of the consequences of delusion, which are pain, infamy, failure in life, and this gradation of the soul. Rather than confronting him, Sri Krishna is making Arjun uncomfortable about this current state. We all feel uncomfortable when we are confused because it is not the natural condition of the soul. That feeling of discontentment, if properly channeled, can become a powerful impetus to research for true knowledge. The suitable solution of doubt helps a person acquire a deeper understanding than before. Thus, God sometimes deliberately puts a person in turmoil so that he or she may be forced to search for knowledge to remove the confusion. And when the doubt is finally resolved, the person reaches a higher level of understanding. Now we go to the uh, uh, Bhagavad Gita 2.2, where, O Parth, it does not benefit you to yield this un, this unmanliness. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O vanquish of enemy. So here we continue with our commentary, where he says, successfully trending the path of enlightenment requires high spirit and morale. One needs to be optimistic, enthusiastic, and energetic to overcome the negativities of the material mind, such as sloth, the rut of habit, ignorance, and attachment. Sri Krishna is a skillful teacher, and thus, having reprimanded Arjun, he now enhances Arjun's internal strength to tackle the situation by encouraging him. By addressing Arjun as the son of Pritha, another name of Kunti, Sri Krishna involves him to remember his mother Kunti. She had worshipped Indra, the chief of the celestial gods, and with his blessings, Arjun was born. Hence, He was endowed with extraordinary might and valor, similar to that of Indra. Shri Krishna is reminding him of this, encouraging him not to yield to this impotence, which does not benefit his illusionary percentage. Illusions, which does not benefit his illusionist parentage. Again, he addresses Arjun as Prantapa and or conquer of enemies, including to help, including to him to vanish the indicating to him to vanish the enemy that has arisen within him, namely the desire of dereliction of his dutiful action as a Kshatriya or warrior class prince. Sri Krishna goes to explain that the way he is feeling is neither moral duty or true compassion. Rather, it is lamenting and delusion. It has its roots in weakness of mind. If his behavior was truly based on wisdom and mercy, then he would experience neither confusion nor grief. Now we move on to Bhagavad Gita 2.4, where Arjun said, O Mahasudhan, how can I spot arrows in battle on men like uh, Bhima and Bhishma and Dronacharya, who are worthy of my worship, O destroyer of enemies? So here the commentary goes on, and in commentary he says, in response to the Sri Krishna's call for action, Arjun presents his confusion. He states that Bhishma and Dronacharya are worthy of his respect and adoration. Bhishma was the embodiment of chastity and remained a lifelong celibate to fulfill the vow he had made to his father. Arjun's military preceptor Dronacharya was a genius in the science of warfare, and it was from him that Arjun mastered the art of archery. Kripacharya was another respectable person on the other side, whom Arjun had always held in veneration. To treat these men of high merit as enemies now seemed abominable to the noble minded Arjun. If even arguing with these venerable elders was improper, then how could he ever think of attacking them with weapons? This statement thus implies, O Krishna, please do not doubt my courage. I am prepared to fight. But from the perspective of moral duty, my duty is to respect my teachers and to show compassion to the sons of Dhritarashtra. So now we go on to the next Bhagavad Gita verse, where that's 2.5. It found me better to live in the world by begging than to enjoy life by killing these noble elders who are my teachers. If we kill them, the wealth and pleasures we enjoy will be tightened with blood. So here the commentary states, it could be argued that Arjun needed to fight and win the kingdom to maintain his livelihood, but Arjun refutes that line of thought here. He says that he would prefer to live by begging than to commit this heinous crime. He further believes that if he does indulged in the heinous of act of fighting the war and kills his elders and relatives, his conscience will not allow him to enjoy any of the fruits of this action in this world, such as riches and power. Shakespeare's play Macbeth Shakespeare's play Macbeth carries a telling example of a person not being able to enjoy even the natural state of sleep due to guilty conscience, let alone enjoy any wealth and power that comes along by immortal conduct. Macbeth was a noble man of Scotland. Once while travelling, the King of Scotland came to rest the night at his home, at his house. Macbeth's wife incited him to murder the king and usurp his throne. Macbeth got swayed by her advice and assassinated the king, and thereafter he and the Lady Macbeth were crowned as the king and queen of Scotland. However, for years after that, Macbeth would be found walking in his palace, fully awake at night. The author writes, Macbeth had killed asleep, and so Macbeth shall sleep no more. The queen would be found repeatedly washing her hands as if to remove imaginary blood stains. In this verse, Arjun commiserates that if he did kill these noble elders, tainted with their blood, his conscience would not let him enjoy all the royal benefits of ruling the kingdom. So now we proceed further. We do not even know which result, it's Bhagavad Gita 2.6, where we do not even know which result of this war is preferable for us, conquering them or being conquered by them. Even after killing them, we will not desire to live. Yet, they have taken the side of the sons of Dhritarashtra and now stand before us as on the battlefield. Now, the commentary here is so clear and stating details so clearly. When evaluating the most suitable course of action, one considers various alternatives and tries and their consequences. Arjun was debating whether it would be desirable to defeat the Kauravas or to be defeated by them. Both alternatives seemed like defeat, for if he did win the war by slaying the Kauravas, he would have no further desire to live. However, the fact was that Bhishma, Dronacharya, Kripacharya, etc. had acted ignobly by taking the side of unrighteous Kauravas. The word arthakam has been used from them, implying attached to wealth and position. They had taken the side of wicked Duryodhan. So killing them in the war was a natural consequence. In fact, after the war, Bhishma himself admitted that a teacher who acts ignoble is fit to be abandoned. Here, special mention needs to be made by Bhishma. According to the Srimad Bhagavat, verse 9.22.19, he was a great devotee of Sri Krishna. He was a master of his senses and an icon of chivalry and generosity. He was a knower of the absolute truth and had vowed to always speak the truth in his life. Even death could only come to him when he chose to accept it. For various reasons, he enumerated amongst the 12 great personalities or Mahajanas mentioned in the Bhagavatam. Vayambhur
ये
Naradham
स्किप कर दीजिए ये अगर नहीं पढ़ पाएंगे.
are the 12 great knowers of religious principles. The firstborn Brahma, sage Narad, Lord Shiva, the four Kumars, Bhagwan Kapil, son of the Devaduti, Swayambhu Manu, Prahlad Maharaj, Janak Maharaj, grandfather Bhishma, Bali Maharaj, and Sukadev Muni, and Ved Vyas. Hence, Bhishma was an enlightened soul whose action could never be against the principle of dharma. However, his profound character was beyond mundane reasoning. Even though he fought on the side of Kauravas, he said to Yudhishthir, the eldest of the Pandav brothers, before the war, I am obliged to combat on the side of unrighteous, but I give you the boon that you will be victorious. Bhishma knew that the righteous Pandavas, who had the Supreme Lord Krishna on their side, could never lose. By taking the side of adharma, unrighteous, he showed that even the biggest forces on heaven and earth could not make unholiness win in this holy war. He thus offered the biggest sacrifice by laying down his life to assign the divine pastimes of Lord Krishna. Sri Krishna was well aware of Bhishma's deep devotion towards him. Despite his fighting from the side of the this, this is why he annulled Bhishma's vow by breaking his own. Bhishma resolved on a particular day during the war that before sunset on the next day he would either kill Arjun or foremost Pandav warrior, or else to save him, Sri Krishna would have to break his own vow of not lifting weapons in the battle of Mahabharata. Poets describe the vow that Bhishma made. If I do not make the Supreme Lord Krishna lift weapons, then I will shame my mother Ganga, and I am not the son of King Shantanu. Bhishma fought so valiantly that Arjun's chariot was shattered and he was stranded on the ground. At the stage, Sri Krishna lifted the chariot wheel and came forward to prevent Bhishma from killing Arjun. Bhishma saw the Lord with the chariot while in his hand as a weapon and broke into a big smile. He understood that Bhakta Vatsala Bhagwan, God who gives pleasure to his devotees, had broken his own vow to honor the vow of his devotee. In fact, Bhishma's devotion to Lord Krishna had a very rasik, full of sweetness flavor to it. He used to meditate on Sri Krishna's pastime in Vrindavan. There, in the evening, when the Lord would return to the village after grazing the cows in the forest, the dust raised from the hovens of the cows would deck his charming face, increasing its beauty and sweetness. During the battle of Mahabharata, the dust raised from the hooves of the horses too added to Sri Krishna's beauty, and he loved having a darshan, divine vision of his Lord there. In the last stage of his life, as he lay for 6 months on the bed of arrows, he meditated on the very vision of God, offering the following prayers to him. On the battlefield, Lord Krishna's flowing hair was covered with white dust raised by the hooves of horses, and his face was covered with sweet beads because of his physical effort in driving the chariot. These were like ornaments enhancing the beauty of my Lord, and the wounds dealt by my sharp arrows further intensified the decoration. Let my mind meditate unto that Sri Krishna. Lord Krishna reciprocated his loving devotion by himself coming to meet Bhishma on his deathbed of arrows. And with the darshan of God in front of him, Bhishma, the great Mahajan, left his body of his own volition.
तो अभी वी जस्ट डिस्कस, यहाँ तक हमने क्या लेसन लिया, व्हाट्स अवर टेक अवे? तो वुड यू लाइक टू शेयर, नंदिता जी?
Yeah, I would like to share. So we are sometimes in two minds कि हम ये करें कि नहीं करें. अगर करेंगे तो ये है और अगर नहीं करेंगे तो ये है. बट जो सही है वो करना चाहिए हमें. और एक्चुअली कुछ सही और गलत होता नहीं, दोनों चीजें करेक्ट होती है. पर एक, जैसे इन्होंने यहाँ पे एक्सप्लेन किया है कि एक मटेरियल तरीके से सही होती है और एक सच में सही होती है. तो आप जिस भी सेक्टर में हो, वेदर इट्स योर वर्क, वेदर इट्स योर होम, वेदर इट्स योर स्पोर्ट्स फील्ड, एनीथिंग दैट यू आर इन, अगर तुम्हारे को उस टाइम पे तुम्हारा कर्म बोल रहा है कि तुम्हें वो चीज करनी है, उसमें तुम अगर किसी को, तुम्हारे अपोनेंट को तकलीफ दे रहे हो, तो वो एक्चुअली तकलीफ नहीं दे रहे हो. यू आर, तुमको जो करना चाहिए तुम वो कर रहे हो. सो दैट्स वन थिंग दैट आई टुक, बिकॉज ये मेरे में बहुत है. आई एम अ वेरी इमोशनल पर्सन. तो मेरे में कई बार ये चीज हो जाती है कि यार करूं कि नहीं करूं, वो बेचारे का हाथ से ये चीज चले जाए. आई एम इनटू बिजनेस, तो बिजनेस में देखते देखते ये होता है कि नहीं यार, मैं मेरे प्रॉफिट के लिए ऐसा नहीं कर सकती. बट एक्चुअली मेरा तेरा कुछ नहीं है, वो अपनी तरफ से अपना कर रहे हैं, मैं अपनी तरफ से अपना कर रही हूँ. तो जो हमें पाथ दिया गया है हम उसको प्रॉपरली फॉलो कर रहे हैं. फिर उसके बाद यहाँ लास्ट में जो भीष्म पितामह का कहा गया है कि वो इतने अच्छे डिवोटी थे लॉर्ड कृष्णा के, और कृष्णा जी से उनको जो मिला था बून कि भाई आप खुद अपने डेथ को चूज कर सकते हो, यू कैन चूज योर डेथ एंड यू कैन डिसाइड व्हेन यू वांट टू डाई. तो उन्होंने कितना और मैं, अगर वो अपने वेपन्स हाथ में उठाएंगे तभी वो अपना डेथ को चूज करेंगे. तो उन्होंने, आई मीन ही वाज सो सेल्फलेस. उन्होंने उनको मालूम था कि अगर मैं कुछ ऐसा करूंगा तो झट से कुछ ऐसा एक्शन होगा उनसे, और एक्शन होगा तो आई विल बी एबल टू यू नो गेट फ्रीडम. सो फ्रीडम इज दिस, फ्रीडम इज नॉट कि हम अपने आप को फ्री कर रहे हर चीजों से, पर हाँ हम अपने जितने नॉट्स है, हमारी जितने बंदिशें है, वो एक एक बंदिशें खोलते जाएंगे. तो दैट इज एक्चुअल फ्रीडम. ना कि हम बाहर निकल चुके कहीं और, ना ही हम घर से दूर भाग रहे हैं, अपने सर्कमस्टेंसेस से दूर भाग रहे हैं फ्रीडम ढूंढने के लिए. नो, whatever is bonding you somewhere and you are unable to come out of that, try to find a solution for that particular thing and you get freedom. And living here now, you are in freedom. So these two things I took from here till today.
आई थिंक फॉर ऑल ऑफ अस, मतलब हम सबके लिए है. मुझे लगता है जिस दिन जो अटेंड कर रहे हो, मुझे लग रहा है यार यही तो चाहिए था आज, यही तो आंसर है आज मेरा.
मैं एक सेकंड और ले लूं क्या?
जी जी.
कल सदगुरु जी को मैं मिल जाके आई, तो वो बॉम्बे में आए हुए थे एंड हैपन टू गो देयर. तो उन्होंने भी यही चीज समझाई कल. सो इट इज टुडेज रिक्वायरमेंट.
मैंने ना कभी जैसे भगवत गीता और ये सब पढ़ा नहीं है, बट कहीं ना कहीं पता नहीं सबकॉन्शियसली या इनबिल्ट ये सब चीज़ें थी. बट अभी जब पढ़ रही हूँ तो लग रहा है यार ये सब चीज़ें तो, मतलब जैसे हमारे पेरेंट्स हैं या हम और जो लोगों को देख रहे हैं भागवत गीता कर रहे हैं, ये पहले क्यों नहीं बताई थी? ये आफ्टर कमिंग इनटू स्पिरिचुअलिटी और मेडिटेशन वहाँ क्यों अब कनेक्ट कर पा रहे हैं कि हाँ यार ये तो हमने मेडिटेशन मतलब स्पिरिचुअलिटी में आके ये सब आते हैं, डिटैचमेंट्स और इस तरीके से सोचना हमने अब कैसे सीखा है, जबकि हमारे ये रिलीजन तो ऑलरेडी यही सिखा रहा है हमें. तो ये मिसिंग कहाँ है?
कि तब हमारे में इतनी मैच्योरिटी नहीं थी कि हम इसको डाइजेस्ट कर सके. तब हम यही सोच,
मे बी हम सिर्फ किताब की तरह पढ़ रहे हैं लोग भागवत गीता, इतने बड़े बड़े मैं देख रही हूँ इवेंट्स हो रहे हैं, लाइक शादी की तरह पूरे पूरे इवेंट्स होते हैं भागवत गीता के, बट वहां फिर हम ले क्या रहे हैं?
जो लोग अटेंड करते हैं ना, वो लोग लेते हैं।
मतलब मेरे लिए तो इट्स लाइक कि ये बहुत अच्छी चीज है जो भागवत गीता हमें
आपने
सिखा रही है।
आपने अटेंड नहीं किया होगा ना, जैसे कभी किया है कभी?
मैंने किया है
हाँ।
बट ऊपर से।
नहीं नहीं, ये होता है जब हमारी फैमिली अगर रिलीजियस होती है ना, ऑलरेडी रिलीजियस अगर आप हो, तो स्पिरिचुअलिटी अपने आप आ जाती है वहां पर। इसीलिए बोलते हैं बच्चों को शुरू से ही रिलीजन के अंदर डाल देना चाहिए। रिलीजन इज नॉट अ बैड थिंग। हम जिन संस्कारों से जुड़े हुए हैं, अगर हम वो संस्कार अपने बच्चों को देंगे तो स्पिरिचुअलिटी अपने आप आ जाएगी।
बट रिलीजन और स्पिरिचुअलिटी इज डिफरेंट थिंग, या एक अलग ही टॉपिक हो
डिफरेंट है।
जाएगा। हाँ।
डिफरेंट है, लेकिन जो सीढ़ी होती है ना जिस पर आप कदम रखते हो,
यस।
माँ बाप, बच्चे को माँ बाप चाहिए ही चाहिए। तो एक पहला
नर्सरी,
जो सीढ़ी,
इट्स अ नर्सरी
वो
क्लास, मतलब आपका बेस तो यही है।